How many times have we heard that the Reform Party is anti-establishment? Well, this latest development shows Reform are very much part of the Uni Party. Delighted to launch the official X account of Reform Friends of Israel. Follow for updates as we launch this exciting platform to promote the UK-Israel relationship with Reform UK leaders and members. I mean, I don't think it needs to do anything. We already have a huge UK-Israel relationship, don't we? But would you look at that? Billionaire-backed Reform are also supporters of the genocidal regime of Israel. RFI, which is Reform Friends of Israel, is being established to work with election candidates and other party officials to promote UK-Israel relations. It is understood that Jason Pearlman, former advisor to Israel's president Isaac Herzog, could be appointed as director of the group in what will be seen as a major coup. RFI will seek to emulate the success of conservative, Labour and Liberal Democrat Friends of Israel groups moving forwards. So, who is Jason Pearlman? Jason Pearlman stands to become one of the most influential figures on foreign policy if Nigel Farage's party wins the next election. He has said he has great respect for Benjamin Netanyahu, who was wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes. And when his departure from Israeli politics was announced in December, he was personally thanked by President Herzog. Jason has helped guide the office of the president through perhaps Israel's most challenging times with the international press, Herzog said. Yeah, I mean, it must be tough for Israel and the media with them committing a genocide and those pesky journalists keep asking questions about it. Pearlman also said that Israel hasn't committed any war crimes. Israel has not committed a single war crime in Gaza. The head of the newly formed Reform Friends of Israel has claimed. Jason Pearlman also described the torture and abuse of Palestinian detainees held in Israeli prisons as the minutiae of individual claims. What a horrible individual. Kevin, if you don't think that Reform, well, I'm not saying you, but people, if people don't think Reform, is the establishment after all the big money donations, being massive Zionists surely no one can deny that they are very much the establishment.
Oh, they're 100% the establishment. These are entirely a party made up of former Conservative Party members, literally some of whom, including Robert Jenrick, literally former Conservative Party ministers within the last, 2 years? Um, yeah, they're obviously establishment. And this shouldn't be remotely surprising, of course, this move to create the Reform Friends of Israel, for two main reasons. Firstly, as we sort of led with there, Reform are establishment. They're pro-Israel. They're absolutely fine with being genocidal, and of course, they're absolutely fine with the American line on everything because they're so far up Trump's arse they can see out of his nostrils. It's embarrassing the degree to which they're prepared to cuck us out to America and thus, by extension, to Israel as America's outpost. I actually think it was quite funny that the Labour Party were going to give a red box to the red ministerial box to Trump as well, given that we are essentially just openly admitting there that the UK Prime Minister is just a branch manager of the local regional outlet for the American empire, formerly known as the United Kingdom. Anyway, and secondly, we shouldn't be remotely surprised about the RFI because Israel is the most obvious candidate for the biggest foreign influencer of British democracy. They are known to fund many groups, including the groups like the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Labour Friends of Israel, Conservative Friends of Israel. Their claws go into every aspect of British democracy. And of course, naturally, given that the Reform Party are leading in the polls and therefore most likely to be able to form a government after the next election, in order to dictate that government's foreign policy, they need their own vehicle within inside the Reform Party. And they found a very natural home, of course, because they're very welcoming of such evil barbarity as is inflicted by Israel against Muslims. It's very much on brand, I think, with the Reform Party's general ethos. And so Israel has decided to do what Israel always does, which is peddle its influence in every aspect of other people's countries. And that's precisely what they're doing here.
Do you think this is going to negatively affect them, or do you think this will have zero impact at all?
Uh, in terms of the realpolitik, it probably helps them, at least in the short term, because Zionism is the du jour amongst the establishment.
Mm.
As we've seen from Jeremy Corbyn in recent years, and indeed now Zach Polanski or his sort of equivalents in the United States. Any opposition to Israel whatsoever gets you labelled as an anti-Semite, and that will only last so long because, as the leaks from an American insider showed, that even Donald Trump now is saying in private, everyone hates Israel. Because everyone does hate Israel because of what they're doing. There's only so many videos of babies that have been mulched into a liquid being carried in a plastic bag by their fathers that you can see and not realise the evil that's at play here. But for the short term, the amount of political influence and money that's been sloshing around from Israeli coffers, which, by the way, is by proxy American coffers, because there's a cyclical process of American taxpayers' money being given to Israel to then influence American democracy to give more money, and round it goes. And some of that spills over into Britain as well. And the British establishment is firmly pro-Zionist, completely against the will and belief of the British people. But then again, in what area are they not? I suppose, but especially in this regard. So in the short term, it probably helps them because it keeps the heat off them. If they'd, I don't know, squelched the forming of this group, they'd have been called anti-Semitic, and the same dogs that are now going after Zach Polanski would probably go after Nigel Farage. So in the short term, it probably helps them, but in the long term, as we're seeing from the beginnings of the backpedalings from people like Wes Streeting and Emily Thornberry this week,
Mm.
the old adage about eventually in the future everyone will have been against this, everyone has to try and whitewash their involvement in this. I think that will come back to bite Farage as well, of course, as a rabid cheerleader for the military imperialist endeavor in Iran from America and Israel. It'll come back to bite them in the arse that they've jumped on the Zionist train just as the Zionist train is heading off a cliff.
That's a very interesting point about Wes Streeting and Emily Thornberry. They are trying to backpedal. No one's going to forgive them for it, especially Emily Thornberry. She also said on TV or radio that Israel has a right to cut off electricity and water. She said the same thing as Keir Starmer. So there's no backpedaling happening, but like it almost feels like reform of coming a bit too late because whilst the political establishment are trying to sound a bit better, reform have come out like, hey, look, we're massive friends of Israel, which I think in terms of like treatment in the media, this is going to be very good for them. And of course, not just that, but the cluster fucking of what Israel does in terms of our internal election. Like they will try and spend money on ads, whatever. They will do whatever they can. And it just feels like actually now in England, right? Every election is basically Israel, 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 the Green Party. It literally just feels like that now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And actually, the Green Party again, Zach Polanski being based as fuck, calling for public monitoring of ex-IDF
Yep.
soldiers that return to Britain. Absolutely, if you've been a member of a genocidal army and you return to Britain, I mean, I would go further and say you should probably be locked up and charged for the crimes you committed.
Oh,
Although there
absolutely.
is the possibility of
Mm.
extraterritoriality and legal stuff, so you might have to change the law in order to allow for that, really. But that should be done because these people have committed crimes and they should at least be punished somewhere under someone's jurisdiction for that evil. But at the very least, under current law, what you can do is monitor people who have been involved in foreign armies, whether they be dual citizens or otherwise, that come to Britain, and we should absolutely do so.